And we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Decentralized Mic. Today with the session of Web3 Education and Onboarding, and a very special session because it's the last episode of the Decentralized Mic for the year of 2024. Woo! We also had to reschedule the session from last week, so thank you everyone for joining in today. And we hope we can reach as many audience or as many people as possible. We are streaming live on LinkedIn, X, and YouTube. So everyone that's joining online, please feel free to use also the comments and the message or the chat to engage with the speakers here today. My name is Zoe. I'm the host and moderator of the session today. And I'm joined by amazing speakers and experts of the topic of education and onboarding in the Polkadot ecosystem and beyond. Hey, Tim, Ian, and Dom, how are you guys?
Doing good.
Doing great. Hi, Zoe. Thanks for hosting.
Thank you so much. And Phil is joining as well. Hey.
Yeah. Everyone. Thank you for hosting, Zoe.
Perfect. Now we are complete on stage. Thank you so much for joining, guys, and for sharing your expertise on the topic for today. And we already see some people joining in the chat as well. The Decentralized Mic, as everyone knows, is an educational episode or session on different topics to spotlight teams that are very active in the Polkadot ecosystem. We have hosted sessions on marketing, business development, developer relations, and today we dive deep into education and onboarding. And I will keep the introduction short and would like to have all the speakers give a short introduction about you guys yourself, because you all bring a lot of experience into the Polkadot ecosystem. Maybe also share a little bit of your experience that you gained before you actually joined the Polkadot ecosystem. And also what kind of problem you're solving within the Polkadot ecosystem for the topic of education. And I give it over to Tim.
Thanks. Yeah. Hey guys. So yeah, I am a little introduction about me then. So I'm a technology recruiter by trade. That's my background. I mean, TradFi for a long time before moving into crypto in 2016. Since then, I've worked at an exchange and I've worked in VC and I've worked at Parity as technology recruiting lead, and now work at the Polkadot Blockchain Academy, where I figure out who we're going to bring to each PBA cohort. So attracting people and then helping them to find their way in the Polkadot ecosystem after a course is completed. So the Polkadot Blockchain Academy is a Polkadot Treasury funded educational initiative. We offer online and in-person courses to see the Polkadot ecosystem with appropriately educated and motivated people. Our course material is created by and delivered by the guys who are building Polkadot. Yeah, that's a bit of an intro.
Thank you very much, Tim. Ian, please share some of your expertise. You're also not, you came to the Polkadot ecosystem with a lot of expertise from different ecosystems. Very excited to have you here today.
Yeah, correct. Super excited to be here today. So yeah, I guess just in terms of history about me before I get into sort of what our team's doing for the Polkadot ecosystem, I've been in recruitment for 15 to 20 years now and started out in the ad tech space, spent 4 to 5 years at Facebook leading teams there, recruiting for software engineers for WhatsApp, Instagram, all that stuff, but made the transition into Web3 in 2021 into a company called Protocol Labs, and actually helped Protocol Labs scale from 100 to over 400 people in 1 year. And that was sort of the formative experience for me in Web3. The really cool thing that we got to do at Protocol Labs, though, is actually support their entire ecosystem or network in addition to hiring directly for Protocol Labs. So not a lot of people know that, but they're invested in 300 to 400 different companies, and we were able to support over 100 of those companies during my time there from a recruiting perspective, which is pretty incredible. We still actually do support Protocol Labs and that ecosystem as well, but we actually, have now transitioned to also support the Polkadot ecosystem. So now I'm the CEO and co-founder of IPTS, the Interplanetary Talent Services. And in terms of what we do for Polkadot, yeah, we do direct hiring for any Polkadot company that needs it. We help out with literally anything else in relation to hiring that these companies need as well. So whether it's writing job descriptions, helping with comp stuff, literally anything, designing interview processes, we're jumping in and doing whatever we can to help. So it's pretty awesome.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Very important service that we need in the Polkadot ecosystem when people, when they join Polkadot Blockchain Academy, and then they can actually be placed in real projects and teams. And we have Dom and Phil here, both co-founders of EZA. Most of you guys that are active in the Polkadot ecosystem should know both of the co-founders. Dom and Phil, please give a short introduction and also let us know where you're joining from.
Absolutely. I can kick us off. Dom and I are joining from Hong Kong. So for everybody here who's in Asia, I know, well, Polkadot obviously has an amazing Asia community. We're going to meet up with a lot of our EZA Gigabrains who have learned about Polkadot tomorrow. So we'll see everybody at our meetup then. But yeah, brief intro on me, and then I'll hand over to Dom. For anybody who doesn't know about EZA yet, we are Duolingo for blockchain. So that's the one-liner. And what we allow people to do is to learn about blockchains very, very simply. Of course, we are very, very embedded in the Polkadot ecosystem. We've been working in it for, since about 2022 now. So coming up to almost 3 years. And what we do is we bring developers, or rather builders and founders, to actually build on Polkadot. So it all starts in the EZA app, where you can learn about Polkadot, and it's all very, very accessible. And then we host these IRL hackathons in person, where we've had a ton of really, really cool projects launch. And then, of course, what we'll touch on later on is we have the EZX Polkadot University, which is a big, big initiative that they're working on, really to get more founders from universities actually launching their startups on Polkadot. My background is first got into crypto back in 2013 through Bitcoin mining. So that was really my first foray into the space. Then did my undergrad over in the UK at Cambridge. And then afterwards ended up taking a little bit of change of tack again from software engineering, became an attorney, and then founded EZA together with Dom, who's my brother. And that's the perfect segue into him.
Cool. Thanks, Phil, for the intro. Like Phil mentioned, I'm his brother and co-founder at EZA. And really, before EZA, actually was working in finance for a short while, where I worked at Blackstone and Goldman. And then was actually one of the first hires at Cloud Kitchens, which is Travis Kalanick's new startup after he left Uber. So I was one of the first hires there before founding EZA. And in terms of background, education-wise, I did my undergrad at Wharton, where I did my undergrad, studied in finance, and yeah, that's sort of my start, so to speak. But obviously, yeah, Phil and I grew up in the UK, in London, and today are pretty much all over the world with our community in Asia, the US, Europe, always on the ground, meeting them in person.
Amazing. Thank you so much already for all the contribution you guys do to the Polkadot ecosystem in terms of education and onboarding. And it's great to see that you all also have a lot of experience outside of the Web3 space, like a lot of traditional Web2 education services that you have done before joining Polkadot or providing new services in the ecosystem. So to maybe share a little bit of this, or how this also differs from Web3 in general, and then also specifically to Polkadot, let's maybe talk a little bit what decentralized education, or in general education and onboarding for in Web3 means to you guys, because I would like to really hear like the difference also from the Web3 space and why also for Polkadot. So decentralized education onboarding sounds very, very complex. How would you define this and why it's important also? Ian, would like to start with you.
Yeah, sure. So for me, one word always sort of pops up when I think about this, and it's access. Because when I worked at Facebook, like I mentioned earlier, prior to transitioning to the Web3 space, they had just tons and tons of incredible educational resources, other resources during my time there, literally anything you could want. There was a huge just program built out to teach you whatever that thing was. And it was great. But that was all behind the walls of Facebook. So anybody that wants that access to those different educational resources and tools, you don't get them unless you work for Facebook or work for another large company like that. So that's the thing to me when it comes to Web3 education that I think is incredible, is just access for everyone. Most of it is community driven. So people in the different communities are creating the resources, creating the educational tools, and literally anyone can go through and learn about these different things right alongside the people who are building this awesome stuff in the world, and they can help build those things. Even when I was at Protocol Labs, a lot of the engineering meetings would be posted online on YouTube, like live, and that level of transparency is just awesome. So access, transparency, scalability, all of these things to me are sort of main differences in Web3 education as opposed to Web2.
Access, very important topic, and that's what we provide also with Web3 education. Tim, for Polkadot Blockchain Academy, a very important pillar in the ecosystem. You guys do the academies in person, online. Also, there are different routes or different tracks within Polkadot Blockchain Academy. Share from your expertise what also maybe specifically for the academy, why is this so important, and how do you actually provide web or decentralized education?
Well, yeah. So I mean, the mechanism behind it that funds us is the Polkadot Treasury, right? And that's a real novel thing that's happened with this new industry sector in which we all work. So the Treasury has facilitated Polkadot Blockchain Academy in doing what we do, right? And it's a very meritocratic system, right? If we produce really good courses, educate lots of people, and like the Polkadot voters like us, we get to carry on. If we don't, we won't be funded any further, and we finish. So the Treasury encourages actors into the space, like ETA have come in as well more recently, to fill educational gaps, but it's self-policing, right? It's meritocratic. So if you produce results, you get to carry on. If you don't, you don't. And that's going to be really important to the growth of this industry sector, and certainly within Polkadot.
Perfect. So it's actually, if people want education, they get it because self-funded, right? This is the beauty of PBA also.
Well, so the fact that the Treasury funds us means that our courses are either very cheap or free to our learners, right? So the Treasury polices what we do and makes sure that we provide a good service, but it also means it's very accessible. Back to Ian's word, accessible to learners.
Perfect. And there's already a question also from one of LinkedIn user, no name here. Is the academy free? You just mentioned it. It can be offered free. I think there are also scholarships. Tim, do you want to comment on this?
Yeah, so the PBA X, our online course, which is launching its first cohort on January the 6th, is actually a paid course. So it's $100. We're doing it as cheaply as we possibly can without relying entirely on the Polkadot Treasury. But we try to make it as accessible as possible. PBA Campus, the in-person course that we have run 5 iterations of and are planning our 6th in Lucerne in March next year, that is free, right? So hotel, course, food, etc. is free. You just have to win yourself a place on that course by showing us that you're the right person for it. We do offer some scholarships to PBA X, so look out for those. We have been doing giveaways, and we're going to be doing more giveaways as time goes on. Think Pink, for example, next week. I think we're doing a couple of giveaways, for example. So we aim for people in a situation where $100 is giving me a lot of money. We aim to be able to try and make it inclusive for those people as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tim. Dom or Phil, over to you guys. Decentralized education, and you guys really focus on also both online and offline. You do a lot of hackathons, but EasyA, the app, actually gamified Web3 learning. What does it mean to you, and why are you actually also contributing this to the Polkadot ecosystem?
I mean, our mission is really to bring the next billion people into Web3, and that all starts with builders and developers. But most of all, what it starts with is inspiring people. So I think that when you talk about gamification of the learning, when you talk about what it means to have decentralized education, I think what that means is it's about empowering people to be able to bootstrap themselves and be able to join this ecosystem on their own. So that is where the EasyA app comes right into its full force, so that you can be anywhere in the world. And if you are excited about Polkadot, you can dive into the EasyA app. Within the push of a few buttons, you can already start learning about it. You could be on the train, you could be on the plane. Sort of sounds like a little bit of a Dr. Seuss sort of thing. You could be anywhere, and you can have the EasyA app and you start learning about Polkadot. And then, as you mentioned, Zoe, we then have the EasyA hackathons, which then enable and empower people to come, meet other people in the ecosystem, and then actually launch their ideas. And so we have people who just have these incredible passions that they want to build out on Polkadot, come and launch them at the hackathons, and then are able to get their first taste of the actual ecosystem. So for me personally, what decentralized education means is it's about empowering people to be able to access this ecosystem and also to join it no matter where they are. And I think that, to Ian's point earlier, it's something that we don't really have in Web 2, and which is really uniquely enabled by Web 3. It's all about empowering people, allowing anybody to have the opportunities to join the ecosystem and be part of this whole revolution. And that's what we're really passionate about, and what we're really moving forward.
Amazing. And let's maybe dive a bit deeper into like the balance of online and offline, because Web3, we are so much online, right? And then we are always very excited to meet everyone at different conferences. But how does this impact also education? Like, because you provide an app, but you also do hackathons, and like, what is the right balance? Or if you have, like, how important is it also to educate in person, or what kind of tools can we use to educate better online? Tim, over to you, because you also have this concept online and offline, if you would like to comment on this.
Yeah, absolutely. The Polkadot Blockchain Academy was originally conceived as an in-person course, and that's what we still do. Until now, it's been a month-long course where we bring people from all over the world to a host city at a university and immerse them into blockchain for a month. That's really important. That cohort-based community-building learning is kind of irreplaceable, really. The effect that it has on our graduates as they leave our courses, they end up really motivated, like part of a new gang that we've assembled at a cohort, and they leave, and the effect that it has on their productivity and the ecosystem afterwards is profound. PBAX, the online version of the course, PBA Campus is kind of limiting in terms of how many people we can take through it, because it costs a lot of money to do each seat, and lecture theatres are only so large, right? So PBAX is an unlimited size lecture theatre, right? We can provide very similar learning, still in a cohort-based format, to as many people as want to sign up, essentially. Yes, the first cohort is limited in numbers, but in future we're going to be able to educate unlimited numbers of people. But we're keeping, as I mentioned a moment ago, we're keeping the cohort-based nature of it, because we feel that that's still going to create a better community feel to it. You're going to have peers to learn with, and then you're going to be part of an alumni afterwards to go and help you be effective in the ecosystem.
The people, connections, networking, very important also in Web3. So it does definitely is a difference to educate and learn also in person. Dom, for EasyA, because also maybe if you want to share a bit about numbers, you have amazing numbers of like builders that join EasyA app that actually can learn, that take challenges for different protocols, blockchains, and teams, like over 2,000 builders in a month. Or I let you comment on the numbers. How does this differ also from hackathons? Are you able to reach the same numbers in-person events? And if not, how is it different?
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question. So we really see the app as sort of top of the funnel. So the very entry point for where people actually find out about an ecosystem, actually get involved, get really excited about building in it. And that's where if you downloaded EasyA, which is a completely free app for anyone on iOS and Android to download, you can scroll between different blockchains and you can find your perfect match and click in and actually start learning about the different aspects of the ecosystem. And really what that is a springboard into the ecosystem. So as soon as someone learns about Polkadot, learns about the different parachains, different ecosystem projects, they're able to then get invited to one of the hackathons that we host every month around the world. And they can actually show up and build in person together with us. So Phil and I are always there with the community at these hackathons. There's typically always a very long line outside. And we typically have many times more people apply for the hackathons than we actually have spaces for. Again, the hackathons are completely free for anyone to join. And in fact, we actually give away a lot of prize money to all of the winners. And then the goal is actually to get them to continue to build on the different chains. And we've had some great successes of people who have, found out about Polkadot through the app for the first time. They've then actually showed up to a hackathon either in London or at Harvard. And then they've actually gone on to get grants from different ecosystem teams and actually continue to build. And then they've, got into YC. Company actually just 2 months ago recently got into YC off the back of our Polkadot hackathons, and it was written up about in Business Insider and a couple of other really cool places. And yeah, super cool things that are happening. But for us, the combination of having that top of the funnel online, so anyone can get involved, but then also bring them all in person. A couple of hundred people select, gigabrains we call them, to actually build in person. There's no replacement for that, of course. So yeah, for us, the in-person events have been super crucial as well. And that's why they've been so popular. We've actually hosted, one every single month in person last year, or this year rather, in 2024. And that was, pretty fast pace. But for us, it's been amazing. And obviously everyone's had a great time. And it's been really good for the ecosystems like Polkadot.
Thank you for sharing. And Ian, how does it affect recruiting services, like the balance between online and offline?
Yeah. Just be completely transparent here. When it comes to online recruiting services, a lot of times there's just a lot of noise. There's a lot of people applying to things. There's a lot of people reaching out about things. And in-person events are just such a great way to sort of cut through a lot of that and have a conversation with someone and explain your background and ask questions in a way where you can get immediate answers and aren't just sort of waiting for things in a traditional recruitment pipeline. So that's why we try so hard with the Polkadot ecosystem to attend as many events as we can, because being there in person and just having organic conversations with someone, you can't replace that. And it's not just with candidates either. I guess that's what I've sort of spoken to here, but also with companies as well. You sort of learn about challenges that companies are running into, and you help talk them through those things. It's a little bit easier than that company having to reach out to you to, articulate some specific challenge they're having and go back and forth. So yeah, in-person events, you can't replace them. We love going to them, and especially in the Web3 space, it's such a value add compared to the Web2 world.
Yeah, we like to underestimate the in-person connections because, again, we are so much online and so important to us. Just a comment here, it was already a question. This is recorded. You can always rewatch this session on YouTube. Just follow Polkadot or subscribe to the channel, and you can always get back to this session. And here's also a great question from the audience. Will you teach blockchain to kids? And I think that's a great transition to talk about how do you approach education, and specifically Polkadot, not only Web3, blockchain in general. And then Polkadot is very specific in a lot of ways, right? We have governance, a very complex topic, all the parachains, a lot of technicalities that need to be taught to actually dive into the Polkadot fair. And Tim, please, from your expertise, how do you approach the education specifically in Polkadot? And are you able to teach it to kids, to answer this question?
I don't see why not. So we have a modular syllabus, right, which starts at the fundamentals behind blockchain, right? So we try to create an academic style course rather than purely a bootcampy style course. So we start at cryptography, economics, game theory, and governance, those sorts of things, and then move on to introducing blockchain, and then finally introducing Polkadot and particulars of Polkadot. That's how you got to do it, I think, really, if you want people to really understand why they're here, why they're in this industry. I think probably many people that work in this industry haven't taken the time to do that learning yet, and it's going to affect decisions they make in their career and how they progress in their career. So yeah, starting from the beginning.
Very good. Phil, over to you, because you also, again, via the app, gamify a lot. You make it more playful, the education, and you also work actually with a lot of young people, students, right? More also from the age of that you onboard actually the people. How do you approach really this topic of education for Polkadot?
It's a great question. Actually, I think so. The very youngest person, one of the youngest people we've ever seen was when Andrew Stallings who was part of like the Indy 500 and Connor Daly team. He got his son using the app. But no, in all seriousness, the typical user of EZA, is about 23, 24 years old. So really beginning their software engineering journey. And so kids in some sense. But yeah, great point about the universities. We work very, very closely with the universities because we see a lot of innovation coming out of those. I mean, this is across the board. Universities are a huge hub of pushing the field forward. We've had, for example, Rob Habermeyer, one of the co-founders of Polkadot, was a Thiel Fellow, dropped out of university, and co-founded Polkadot. And so we see this as being a huge, huge driver of innovation. And we focus very, very heavily on universities. We'll come on to the EasyX Polkadot University in a moment. But really, we find that people who are young, smart, ambitious, just want to learn about the coolest tech and get right into it. So that's where the app really comes into play. And to your point earlier, Zoe, as well, that's why we built EZA as a mobile app so that anybody can really get started. And it does very, very well with students because they can just dip their toes in. They can figure out this whole Web3 thing. If they enjoy it, if they think that it's something they're passionate about, then they can go further and they can come to a hackathon, they can launch. If they don't, then we haven't lost any time because it's just so scalable. And it means that we have this great filtration mechanism where people are able to come to the hackathons, launch and build. And really, it's just an amazing filter. So we can invite the best people to actually come to these Polkadot hackathons.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. And Ian, from your perspective, again, also not only the onboarding, but education in Web3 doesn't stop once you're onboarded, right? It's such a fast environment. We always learn new. There's new teams coming up, new technologies now, also with the merge of blockchain and AI. Like, we need to also always educate ourselves while we're already onboarded and work in a team. What, from your expertise, if you want to maybe also give some tips to people that are already on board, how do we do this lifelong learning within Web3? How do you approach this, and how do we don't overwhelm ourselves also with this topic?
Yeah, this is a really good question, because I think one thing maybe underlying a lot of what we're talking about today is that it's a lot. There's a lot. It's like drinking from a fire hose sometimes, the amount of information that you can pull in some of these different places, especially Polkadot. The amount of resources just that we're talking about today is a ton. So my first bit of advice would just start with where you are already. Are you already on X? Are you already on Blue Sky? Are you already participating a lot on LinkedIn? What sort of resources are available there, and start there. Polkadot has so many different outlets: Discord communities, Reddit communities, Telegram groups, Substrate stuff. There's so many different places that you can pull information from. And we're talking about really awesome ones today, but I would say if you're overwhelmed and want to start somewhere, start with where you are already, because it's not going to feel like so much of a lift to go to somewhere else to gather that information. I think you did touch on a really key thing, though, where it's lifelong. You are constantly learning. The space is constantly changing. That's why I find it very exciting, though, to work in this space, because it isn't boring. There is always something to learn. There are always resources available. But yeah, start with what's close to you, and then see what other people are talking about. Join the Polkadot Academy, go through some of the EZA stuff, and yeah, there's just tons to be able to absorb and learn.
Thank you so much for sharing this. And Tim, since PBA was just mentioned here, maybe you can share a little bit, because it's spotlight also to promote PBA here. There are a lot of maybe online or people joining online to also learn how to join PBA. How is like the journey or the learning journey also for someone that actually joined PBA, and how can they actually find roots and join teams within Polkadot after or as an alumni of PBA?
Yeah, I'll do a bit of a shameless shill of us then. So to date, the learning journey has been pretty simple, right? It's apply for PBA, what is now called PBA Campus, run through the course, and then enter our alumni, and we have a whole supportive network to help people find their way into the ecosystem. And to date, we've graduated more than 400 people. About 60% of them have been contributing to Polkadot-based repos this year. So it's pretty good numbers, but we're always pushing hard to try to help our alumni, more of our alumni into the ecosystem through recruiting help, helping them to start businesses, join the technical fellowship, all these sorts of things, right? But the learning journey for 2025 is going to be slightly more complicated, because we're going from a one product organization to a multi-product organization, right? So PBA X is for everyone, right? Anyone can sign up. Anyone can. It's not developer specific, right? It's for anyone who wants to learn about blockchain properly. So we're going to be running multiple cohorts of PBA X, foundational blockchain learning. Still starts from the beginning. Still talks about cryptography and economics, etc., and still talks about Polkadot and blockchain specifically. That's going to be open to thousands of people next year. The logical path from then for developers specifically is to then go on to do PBA Campus, which is honestly pretty tough to get a place on. The competition's tight to get a spot, and we have lots of admissions process for people to get through. But if you get there, it's really worth it, right? We're making a serious investment in you. To help your career, right? To give you the knowledge you need and the network you need to go and succeed in Polkadot afterwards. And so within PBA Campus, we now have two tracks as well, right? So we have the protocol level track, or the on-chain track, and we have the dApps track, the off-chain track. So there's a place for Rust developers and for full stackers alike, right? That's the first time we've done that when we go to Lucerne in March next year. So yeah, the aim is to once you graduated from either from PBAX or from PBA Campus, we aim to help you find your way in the ecosystem afterwards. One thing to note: you don't need to do PBAX to get into PBA Campus. If you have the prerequisite knowledge and you can get through our admissions process, then you can get into PBA Campus. It's fine. So yeah, look, we aim to help thousands of people into the ecosystem and to be effective in the ecosystem next year.
And Dom, maybe you can share, because it's a very special constellation also of you guys as speakers, but also what you actually contribute for education for Polkadot. How do you cooperate with each other? And also how important is like coordination and collaboration for education in Polkadot? Because we are so decentralized, there's so many teams. It is a challenge, but how do you approach like cooperating for education within Polkadot?
Yeah, definitely. So every time that we actually launch a new challenge series in the EZA app, we actually invite all of the different ecosystem partners within the ecosystem to collaborate with us on actually creating the content that they want to have, put out there. So what we do is we send out a survey. We then get their DevRel teams to contribute to that, and they can actually say, what pain points they want us to focus on. And then our engineering and content teams will go and they'll actually, essentially put together all of that content, and then we'll distribute that as well for them. So if you go in the EasyA app, you click on Polkadot, you actually can see all the different chains and different ecosystems we've worked with. Fala's obviously there, Astar, Polymac, a bunch of others. And I think, we have over 10 right now in there, and we're always working to add more, especially as new people come into the ecosystem, because, EasyA has become such a valuable resource for everyone. A lot of different teams want to be in there too. So we're always trying to get more involved and also obviously update the existing content, so it's always new and up to date and fun for everyone to actually participate with. And then obviously, education-wise specifically, we're looking at working together with PBA to funnel some of our builders towards their programs, which are obviously great, because, obviously, they come to the app, they learn, they get sort of a good introduction, but then, maybe they want to have like a more intense course and meet other founders in the ecosystem. And so, that's something that we are going to be collaborating closely and hopefully working together with Ian too, as well, on bringing some of our builders there, because these are all great programs, and for us it makes much more sense if everyone's working together as opposed to siloed, which it can be, if you don't make a concerted effort, because like you're saying, everything is so decentralized.
Tim, would you like to comment on this cooperation?
I was gonna interject and say, I think what EasyA are doing, what we're doing, actually really complementary. The EasyA app is going to be a great way for people to get both into PBA campus and to PBA and to as a learning resource to complement PBA X. And then I can see our graduates rolling out of PBA campus and into EasyA University, right? And the more entrepreneurial developers of the bunch, right? So it all fits together really nicely. I would say that's an accident, but I think we've been talking, so we've made it so.
Absolutely, and I think that what's especially cool is that we have what we've realized as part of the ecosystem, and we've chatted at length about this together with Tim, is that there are different strands, and I'm sure Ian will be very familiar with this as well. There are different types of people who come into the ecosystem. So when we're talking about education, it's one word. Really, there are different people who are looking for education. There are the founders who really are our forte, and that's really what we're targeting towards, with the EasyA app and the hackathons, and really the startups that we're trying to get built out, especially from the university side. And of course, there's Polkadot Blockchain Academy, which really like super top on like the core devs, and really building out this amazing material as well that can bring people very, very deep into how do you build on Polkadot, from like the substrate level as well, which is obviously very, very challenging. And then there are also people who are on the user side who just want to play around with it, who want education on how does Polkadot even work if you're just coming from Ethereum as a user, how does DeFi work, which are the main dApps that you need to use. And so like you're right, Zoe, there's tons of different stakeholders, but I think that having these sorts of forums where we're all chatting together about what we're doing and the different synergies between us is, that's how we get it done.
Perfect. Ian, any comments from your side?
I think Phil just called out one thing that I would just like double down on as being like a huge misconception, though, is that that it's just for technical individuals. Phil just laid out how this education, all this onboarding stuff is not just for engineers. Like if you're a non-technical individual, there are resources, there are programs, there are things that you can go through to onboard into the ecosystem as well. And I think that's like another huge thing about this space is it's accessible to anyone, whether you are a hardcore developer or whether you are, someone in marketing or something that's a little bit more non-technical. So I think that's awesome.
Very inspirational. So everyone also that joining in here and is not from a technical background, there are always ways to join the Web3 space, to contribute to Polkadot. Just be sure of what your skill set is, and there are always ways to be welcome and contribute to the community. If we look out a bit or look into the future to how education also will change, we already touched on like education online or the balance between online and offline. How do you think education will will change. Will it change also? Are we going to focus much more on online education, or focus instead of the offline education, or maybe different tools? We already use gamified apps, maybe more blockchain integration for blockchain education. Ian, back to you again. Like, how do you think it will change in future, and what should we be aware of?
Yeah, I think one of the cool things is that on some level, we don't know how it's going to change. That's another exciting thing about this space, is it's so ever changing that, like, what things look like in 6 months to a year could be very different from what they look like now. So maybe the word I'm looking for is dynamic. Education and onboarding in this space can be very, very dynamic to sort of keep up with the technology and the decentralization and everything that's going on. I don't want to keep belaboring this point, but like accessibility is going to continue to be huge. Accessibility, inclusivity with these different educational and onboarding resources, I think, is only going to get better. It's already great, but as we're sort of articulating during the call today, there still is sort of the hurdle of finding some of these resources. That's why we're doing this talk. That's why EZA and PBA and the work that we're doing exists, is to get these things in front of people, but that hopefully will only get easier as time goes on. And then I think there's going to be like tons of cool, like new primitives for learning, like modular learning or tokenized stuff, or you mentioned gamified stuff already. Like, to me, I feel like we're in like the first inning of this game, where there could be so many cool applications of this, where you're almost learning without even knowing that you're learning, which is the stuff that like gets me really excited about the space and operating in it. So yeah, I just feel like the space as a whole is like just so open and so accessible and so great in that regard, that it just, gets me super excited for the future. But those are a few of the things that I would call out as maybe being, new things coming down the pipe.
Phil, would you like to add to this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, on that note as well, I think in particular, there is this continuum of education that we see as well. So, when we're looking at, you look at somebody who's coming in from one different background to another, whether they're coming in from Web 2 to Web 3, there's a different pathway. When you're coming in from Web 3 from another ecosystem, there's, just another pathway as well. And I think in particular, like one of the things that we try really, really hard to do at EZA, especially at the hackathons, is identify what type of person would really be valuable to the Polkadot ecosystem. And I think that's really key. So there are ways that people can support in many, many different aspects, and it's working on that pathway. So this is something that we, have chatted with different people in the ecosystem at length about. It's what those pathways actually look like, especially in an ecosystem that's so decentralized. So, I mean, Ian worked at, Facebook before. So, if you go into a company like that, it's clear, right? It's like, well, are you going to be working in engineering? Here's the application portal, right? Here's what it looks like. Here are the steps. Are you going to be working in marketing? Here's what it looks like. And it's all very, very well defined because it's all centralized. Whereas when you come to an ecosystem like Polkadot, it's like, whoa, there's so much you can be doing. You can be doing all of those roles. There are different teams that you can be doing those roles at. Are you doing it, for example, at a parachain? Are you doing it at Parity? Are you doing it at Web3 Foundation? And who is hiring for those roles at different times? Because everything moves so fast. So, there have been different ideas about, there is a Polkadot jobs board, but things even change so quickly that if you are looking for, a role in marketing, maybe one of the most exciting ones is not a Web3 Foundation. It's probably going to be at a new parachain or one of the new Polkadot projects that is coming up. So I think that from our perspective as well, like there's this, to tie back to the continuum of education, there is, different points along the way where we're really trying to figure out, okay, what happens after they've come to a hackathon? Maybe they're going to Polkadot Blockchain Academy, and as Tim said, maybe they're coming from PBAX, from EZA into PBAX, or from one of the others into EZA hackathon or something like that, so that they can launch. So I think that all of us collaborate together, and this is continuum as opposed to it being like necessarily a one-stop shop for anything. And that's what we're all working together to do.
Dom, an additional perspective from your side, Dom?
Yeah, I mean, I think just have to echo everything Phil said. Everything is always stronger together. So yeah, not much to add to what Phil said, but yeah, just have to agree.
Perfect. To also maybe conclude a little bit of this session here today, and to inspire again also the audience that joining, that really want to join the Polkadot ecosystem. They are very hungry to learn, to educate themselves. Tim, what are some of the skill set that someone should bring if they're joining PBA, or if they're just coming to Web3 from the Web2 space? Technical skill set, non-technical. What kind of advice can you bring? Can you give people that are listening today?
Good question. I mean, we filmed a bit of an interview with Gav in Lisbon recently, right? Gavin Wood, our founder, Polkadot founder, Ethereum co-founder. The number one thing he said to that question was that people need to come with an open mind and a slight philosophical bent, right? You got to have a curiosity as to why this industry exists. It's not exactly immediately obvious when you come and have a look at like CoinGecko or whatever. Yeah, just an openness, to this new paradigm, essentially. But other than that, there's definitely a lot of special sauce to learn in this industry, and you get that from coming to EZA or to the Polkadot Blockchain Academy. But there's loads of stuff from your previous career that will be applicable and you can bring to the party. Yeah.
You mentioned already Gav and some of his inspiration for books. I would also recommend everyone to look into the Technical Fellowship Manifesto. Maybe we can also link or share a link here, because there are also some recommendations of books to be read. They're definitely deep books, but to also understand a little bit more like the mindset and what you should bring, what you just mentioned, the openness. And it's not, as we said here today as well, not only about technical skills, technicalities, it's also about politics, philosophy, right? How to also work in a decentralized environment. So there are a lot of inspirations, and yeah, maybe we can also share the link here below. Ian, over to you.
Yeah, so I guess to be pretty concrete with this, I mean, we've talked a lot today about, fundamentals, like learn the fundamentals of the ecosystem. There's so many different ways to do that. We've talked about a lot of different ways you can do that on the call today. But just to tie this directly into like hiring for companies and the ecosystem as well, use job descriptions as cheat sheets. You can reach out to me. I can share with you what companies in the Polkadot ecosystem are hiring, what teams are going to be hiring in the future, and see what sort of technologies they're building on top of, see what sort of things they're looking for in these job descriptions. Talk to people who are on the teams currently. Listen to the talks from Gav, like Tim just said, about what sort of things we value in this ecosystem. And then go about building those things. Maybe to be a developer on a particular team, you need that Rust experience and you don't have it. So how can you get it? What are the steps to do that? Again, like we've said throughout, this is like really awesome about Web3 is you can get that experience without having to go to 4 years of university or, pay tens of thousands of dollars for whatever schooling or join whatever really large company. So yeah, just see what sort of experience, knowledge is needed for different things within the ecosystem and go about intentionally building that. I guess just one other word that I wanted to call out that Tim used was curiosity. I think that's just like so paramount for anything. There are some instances where people just sort of expect the knowledge to come to them, and you need to be curious. You need to explore the different things available to you. Ask questions. Don't be shy about sort of reaching out and just being vulnerable about what you know and don't know. And there are tons of different people in this space who are willing to jump in and help at least point you in a direction, but more often than not, sort of go a step beyond that to try and help up level you. So yeah, that's just, I guess, a few things I would say maybe related to like directly getting hired in this space.
Amazing, very valuable tips to share. Dom or Phil, or whoever wants to comment on this, some skill sets and advice that you can also give the audience joining today.
I think, Ian really hit the nail on the head. I think something that a lot of people might want is that, that everything just comes to them on a plate. Whereas, especially in an industry that's moving so fast like Web3, you do really need to figure things out on your own. sometimes. I mean, we try to obviously give people as much as they can, but because it moves so fast, it means that what's relevant literally 1 month might not be relevant the next. And literally, it's that fast, right? So a team that's hiring, I mean, Ian mentioned that he expanded the team, like, what was it, like 4x, right, within a year. So, you know, that's the scale that you're moving at, right? And you may have felt like maybe the team's already hired for all those roles within a couple of months, and then they're moving on to another focus. So I think that that's really, really important. And especially for within our focus at EZA, we're really focused on getting great founders building great projects. And we've seen that the best people who end up doing that are the ones who know what is hot and what needs the ecosystem has at the moment. So great example, for example, right now is a team that came out of our Harvard hackathon, building AI agents. They are just, absolutely crushing it with that, because that is, there's super immense interest in that at the moment. A lot of users are excited about it. A lot of chains are excited about it. Just off the board, they just closed a big pre-seed round as well, because VCs are excited about it. So I think it's being really, really hot on those sorts of things, as opposed to what people might be familiar with from other fields, where there's maybe more of a lead time leading into things. Things don't necessarily have this short lifespan that they have in Web3, where if there's a good idea, people are just on it super quickly. And then there's a new idea that maybe needs to be built out, or a new need, because things get opened and closed so quickly. So there's a very narrow opportunity, I'd say. So I think that for people, who are looking at, okay, well, how do I build up the right skill set, or how do I figure out what I need? I think most people are going to have to learn it on the job, and learn it maybe a week before they actually need to know it. So I think it's mainly just building the skill set of being able to learn very, very quickly. I think that's probably the most valuable thing that we see in the best founders.
Perfect. So the audience is well prepared how to educate themselves, or how to also what kind of skill set to bring to join the Web3 space, to get onboarded, and to do also or continuously have the mindset for lifelong learning, right? Very important within Web3. We hope we got we hope that we gave you a lot of expertise and insights how to onboard and educate yourself within Web3. Please follow also all the companies, and also check out PBA. Look out for the scholarships, online or offline. And we would love to see a lot more onboarding of the people that joined here today to join also the Polkadot ecosystem. This was the last session of the Decentralized Mic. We are continuing in the next year with more exciting topics. And thank you, everyone, for joining today.
Thank you very much for having us on. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, everyone.
Very, very happy festive season, everyone, and happy New Year as well.
Thanks, guys. Great to be on.
Yeah.
Thanks very much,
everyone. See you soon.
See you.